For most of us, Fabergé is an egg probably crafted for the court of Nicholas in Russia in the early part of the 20th century. But it wasn't just Nicholas who was a fan of Fabergé, and that is what we're going to talk about today. An almost unknown British craftsman who, until recently, has been the British secret of Fabergé. They're not gold, they're not enamel, they're not glitzy or fancy, but they tell the most incredible story. 1903, Alfred Lyndhurst Pocock was a student at the Royal Academy. Edward VII was married to Queen Alexandra, and she loved Fabergé, and she was always wanting to collect more and more pieces. And eventually Fabergé opened a retail establishment in St James's in London that would eventually retail as much Fabergé as was sold in Russia. But this chap, Alfred Lyndhurst Pocock, or Lind as he was known to his mates, was a carver that was asked by Queen Alexandra to carve some samples and to send them to Moscow for the finished article to be carved out of precious stones all the way over by Fabergé's workshop. And when they came back, she was so excited about them and thought there was just such wonderful quality. She was known to pick them up individually and show them to her friends and say, that's what a British carver can do. And she was proud of the fact that this chap, Lind, was the only British carver ever to work for Fabergé. And to this day, he remains the only British carver ever to work for Fabergé. So what are these? Pocock was carving plaster maquettes and terracotta models like this, and he was sending them to Moscow on behalf of Fabergé to have them carved. And of course, everybody knows the story of the Russian Revolution. So as soon as that hit, obviously Fabergé wasn't made in Russia anymore, and Pocock was out of a job. But from then on, he continued to carve. And he carved out of anything he could find. Pebbles on the beach, lumps of jade, bits of shell, terracotta, wood. He would use anything. He was so versatile. Here we see little examples of fish carved out of probably a broken abalone shell. We've got mother of pearl. We've got hard stone. And here we've got a cat's head in clay. These are two of my favourites. They're carved out of terracotta and they're little models of a seated bear. These are part of a collection that we sold a year or so ago and had the most wonderful provenance. This fabulous collection eventually totalled £58,000. Later in his life, Pocock met Percy and Winifred Botley. Now, they were gemologists. They had the most incredible stock of hard stones. So what better for a carver than to get to know and befriend a pair like that? Now, they also supplied him fossils. We've got a devil's toenail, we've got a trilobite, we've got several actually in different forms. And here we have what was said to be his favourite carving. This is the yawning mouse, and carved out of a tree that supposedly was felled in Winifred and Percy's garden. And here we have a sketch, the original design that ended up here. What a wonderful thing. And next to it, a little weasel or a stoat. Love them. Really beautifully carved. Does just show it doesn't have to be a precious material for it to be a fabulous carving. This one ended up selling for £2,800. This one about 1,500. And here we've got the bears. They were sort of £300, £400, £500 each, and they really did vary. But we had also got in that sale the only known portrait plaque of Fabergé, We also had hardstone carvings of polar bears carved out of agate. Absolutely fantastic. But if they had been original Fabergé carvings and not Pocock in his latter years, those carvings that made hundreds would have made tens of thousands. Little hardstone Fabergé carvings of animals can make 40, 50, 60, 80,000 pounds. I mean, they really can be incredible. And of course, the eggs, we haven't seen one of those come on the market for many years, but again, that would be in the millions. These little examples here, sadly for me, are not genuine Tsar Nicholas eggs. These are much later. They're by Victor Meyer Fabergé. It's a firm that isn't the original firm, but they have the license to make the Fabergé eggs inspired by the originals. And since 1989, this firm has been making guilloche, gold and enamelled eggs. So we look here and you can see this red enamel is against an engine turned 18 carat base. And this is a similar type of decoration that the first eggs over 100 years ago would have used. These are going to be no more than 10 or 15 years old. They're in their very fancy cases, but you can see that this is solely trading on the great Fabergé name. If they had Brian Smith of Bradford, it wouldn't have the same draw. So what are they? They are decoration. They're just meant to open and reveal this little surprise in exactly the same way as those Fabergé eggs from over 100 years ago did. An egg from the time of Edward VII and Nicholas, Tsar Nicholas, several millions of pounds each. These, they are in 18 karat gold, but I should think they're going to make £3,000 to £5,000 each, something like that. But these are coming up for sale this week and we'll see what these make. And 6775 is the first of the two Fabergé eggs. And I've got absentee bids here, 3 bids, and I can start the bidding at £3,000. 3,000 in 18 karat gold, 3,000, 3,2, 3,2 on Easy Live, 3,2, 3,5, 3,5, 3,8, 4,000, 4,2, 4,2, 4,5. 4,002 on Easy Live, 4,5, 4,8, 4,8, 5,000, 5,5 bid, 6,000 for you. Would you like 5,8 at 5,500? At 5,005, 5,6 do I see? Otherwise, gavel is raised at 5,500. All sure, all close. 5,005. Thank you very much. 6776 is the second of the Fabergé eggs. Again, number 2 this time, number 2 of only 21, and 2,800 starts it. 2,008, 3,000 do I see? 3,000 bid on Easy Live. 3,000, 3,2 now. 3,2 on Easy Live. 3,5, 3,8, 4,000. 4,2, 4,5. 4,5 do I see? 4,005, make no mistake, it will sell at 4,002. All done, all sure, less competition for this one at £4,200. All sure. 4,002, 3,113. Now these aren't carved out of fabulous stones. There's no gold, there's no enamel, but they do tell the story of a great British craftsman who was linked to the finest jewellers and bijouterie makers of all time.